Welcome to another Bible Discovery class. I pray that today you will discover some new aspects about the Bible and about God's creation. My name is Alvin Effa, and today I'm filling in for Pastor Ron Kernahan. Pastor Ron and Mary have taken a few days to visit their family in Victoria, as well as taking a much-needed and deserved holiday. My topic today is taken from the book of Genesis, chapter 1, where we read, "In the beginning, God created." Chapter 1 then outlines what God created each day for the next 6 days. And at the end of each day, we read, "And God saw that it was good." And God saw that it was good. In Ephesians 1, verse 4, we read, "Before the foundation of the world, he chose us to become in Christ his holy and blameless children, living within his constant love." In Psalm 139, verses 13 to 14, we read, "For you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works." Dr. David Jeremiah, in one of his daily devotionals, writes, "God's power is displayed throughout the world and across the heavens. When we look upwards to the stars, or downward at the intricate blades of grass at our feet, we see the workmanship of a great engineer, the artistry of a great designer, and the glory of a great creator." Many years ago, Isaac Watts wrote, "I sing the mighty power of God that made the mountains rise, that spread the flowing seas abroad, and built the lofty skies." Today, I want to concentrate on just one verse and then one word as found in chapter 1 and verse 23. "So, God created great sea creatures and every living thing that moves according to its kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good." Notice verse 21 states that God created every winged bird according to its kind. Today, I'm not going to talk about birds, but rather zero in on a product of birds, namely the egg, and especially the chicken egg. Very little is written about eggs in the Bible. Some of the main references are found in Job 6:6, where we read, "Can flavorless food be eaten without salt? Or is there any taste in the white of an egg?" And he's right. Then in Luke 11 to 12, we read, "If a son asks for bread from any father among you, will you give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will you give him a serpent instead of a fish? Or if he asks for an egg, will you offer him a scorpion?" So let's look more closely at this wonderful creation, God, the chicken egg. When we were young kids, we sometimes argued about what came first, the chicken or the egg. This actually is a very old argument dating back to the days of Aristotle and Plutarch. Then in 2010, Some British scientists, using a supercomputer, trying to create a chicken egg, came to the conclusion that an egg cannot be produced without the chicken. Conclusion: the chicken came before the egg. More recently, Stephen Hawking argued that the egg came before the chicken. He was wrong, because according to the Bible, when God created the earth, it was fully functional in every way. Adam and Eve walked into a complete and mature garden with no assembly required. Trees were producing fruit. Animals and birds were fully grown and ready to reproduce, and the earth was teeming with life. Everything was ready for the habitation and rule by God. To repeat, Genesis chapter 1, verse 22 states, "And God blessed them, saying, Be fruitful and multiply, and let the birds multiply on the earth. So the evening and morning were the fifth day." As I was researching this topic, I found an interesting anecdote about an elderly pastor and chicken eggs. And since Pastor Ron is not here, I feel I can tell the story. For as the expression goes, when the cat's away, the mice will play. So here goes. The elderly pastor was searching in his closet for an item before church one Sunday. In the back of the closet, he found a small box containing 3 eggs and 100 $1 bills. He called his wife into the closet to ask her about the box and its contents. Rather embarrassed, she admitted having hidden the box there for their entire 30 years of marriage. Disappointed and hurt, the pastor asked her, "Why?" The wife replied that she hadn't wanted to hurt his feelings. He asked, how could the box hurt his feelings? "Well," she said, "every time during their marriage that he had delivered or preached a poor sermon, she had placed an egg in the box." The pastor thought, 3 eggs? Meaning 3 poor sermons in 30 years? That certainly was not something to feel bad about. But then he asked, "What are these 100 $1 bills for?" Pausing, she replied, "Well, every time I got a dozen eggs, I sold them to the neighbor for $1." So let's delve into some aspects of this wonderful, marvelous creation by God, the chicken egg. Actually, to do justice to this topic would probably take several hours. So try to simplify. As we all know, the main purpose of a chicken egg is for reproduction, and because of its nutritional value, it's also used as a food, and now considered a perfect food. Let's analyze these eggs. Here are some eggs. I think I can safely say that the formation of an egg by a chicken is a miracle, namely unexplainable, because it is so complex. A miracle would not be a miracle if it could be explained. I think back to about 2 years ago when Dr. Eugene Huber, a professor from the University of Calgary, talked to our Encore group about the cell. He has spent 50 years of his life trying to fully comprehend the complexity of the tiny cell. So superficially, let's look at this egg. We notice that it has about 7 parts. There's the outer hard calcium carbonate based shell. Underneath it there is a thin membrane just under the shell. There's the inner white albumin, the protein, just under the shell. There's the inner yolk, the reproductive and nutritious part. Then, if you crack it open, usually at either end, you'll find an air cell. And depending on the age of the egg will determine the size of that air cell. Then we have the chalaise, which you can't see in a boiled egg, but you can see in a raw egg. That's the cord that binds the yolk to the membrane. And then inside you'll also, if you study a raw egg, the germinal disc. Now let's look at this outer shell. You'll notice that it's oval in shape. This is what gives the shell its strength. Actually, if you hold an egg in your hand, end to end, it is almost impossible to break with human effort. According to the internet, chicken egg shells have a compressive strength of about 100 pounds, and ostrich eggs have a compressive strength of about 1,000 pounds. Of course, much depends on the thickness of the shell and what the chicken has eaten. But it's often said that the fresher the egg, the harder the shell. Many years ago, at a house party, this topic came up and we tested the strength of an egg by trying to crush it in our hand, and none of us could break it. Then our female host, unfortunately, held it slightly at the wrong angle, and the egg literally exploded. There was egg yolk all over the wall and ceiling. At a previous podcast, I had talked about Buckminster Fuller, an engineer and inventor of the geodesic dome. Not wanting to take away from his genius, but I would not be surprised if he got his inspiration after studying the shape of an egg. Eggs. Eggs come in all sizes. The average weight of a large egg is about 3 ounces. Although Rhode Island Reds can lay an egg up to 7 ounces. Thus, they are mainly used as meat because their eggs are too large to sell. Eggs also come in different colors. Most are either brown or white, apparently with no difference in nutritional value. But if you crossbreed a leg-barred chicken with a pheasant, you get blue-shelled eggs. And if you crossbreed a brown egg-laying chicken with a leg-barred chicken, you get a green egg shell. Egg yolks are either yellow or orange. Free-range chickens who feed on bugs and vegetation usually produce more of an orange yolk. Grain-fed chickens usually have a yellow egg yolk. But I understand if they're fed by corn, it also is oranges in color. How to tell if an egg is fresh without breaking it open? Simple. Just put it in water. If it sinks to the bottom and lays on its side, it's fresh. If it sinks and stands on one end, it's still fresh enough to eat, but getting older. But if it floats to the top, it's an old egg. And that is part of the problem in buying eggs at our superstores. By the time they get to you, and who knows how long they're in the store, they could be up to a month old. And that's why many people like to buy their eggs fresh from the farm. Question: how can you tell a fresh egg from a boiled egg? Suppose you boil a whole bunch of boiled eggs, and then you put them in the fridge with the other eggs, and you forget to mark which one was boiled and which one is fresh. How now can you tell the difference? Because they look exactly the same. As I have these two eggs, no difference. One is boiled and one is fresh. All I have to do is try and spin it. This one doesn't spin very well. That one really spins. That's the boiled egg. That's the fresh egg. Now let me talk a little bit about the food value of an egg. And I want to spend some extra time on this aspect because I believe it is so important to fully understand this miraculous creation from God. For many years, eggs got a bad rap because of its so-called high cholesterol. Now, more and more, the egg is being recognized as a near perfect food for its healthy, nutritious value. Every egg is loaded with vitamins, minerals, high-quality protein, good fats, and nutrients. Thus, unlike any other food source, an egg provides you with every single vitamin, mineral, and nutrient that the human body requires, such as vitamins A, B2, B5, B12, and vitamin E, selenium, calcium, folate, iron, potassium, zinc, manganese, and choline, which is found in the yolk of the egg. Choline is a very important nutrient as it helps the body fight heart disease, fatty liver disease, and some neurological disorders. And lastly, the white of an egg, the protein. The protein structure of an egg is so perfect that the amino acid composition of an egg is the gold standard for measuring all other protein foods. The protein of an egg has 21 different amino acids, which are the building blocks of our body, building our tissues, organs, and muscles. And lastly, the egg has only 77 calories. Just imagine all these vitamins and minerals and only 77 calories. Compare that to a McDonald's muffin with 340 calories and virtually no real food value. At this point, I feel again compelled to use the words, "it's a miracle." A good hen can lay an egg almost every day, up to 296 eggs a year. When you think of the complexity of an egg, its nutritional value, all formed in 26 hours from some grass, bugs, or grain, that's a miracle. Let me talk a little bit about uses of eggs. Usually, we only think of an egg as a breakfast food. So we have bacon and eggs, ham and eggs, sausage and eggs, with the eggs either fried, boiled, poached, or scrambled. Or we might have a fancy omelette or some crepe. But this is only a small extent of the many uses of an egg. We use eggs extensively in baking, salads, making perfumes, glue, leather cleaner, hair conditioners, fertilizer, fabric softener, pest repellent, and so on. And for you gardeners, don't throw out the water from boiling or poaching your eggs. Let it cool off and give your plants some real nutrients. Going on to world production. The data I'm going to share indicates just how important eggs are to society. Worldwide consumption stands at 1,320 billion eggs a year, produced by about 7.2 billion hens. I'm not sure how they get those figures because there are a lot of farmers who certainly don't report this, but that's what internet indicates. It also indicates that the average per person world consumption stands at about 161 eggs per year, and it varies greatly from country to country, with Mexico being the top consumer at 360 eggs per person, followed by Japan at 337, the USA at 286, China at 255, and all the way down to India at 76 eggs per person. How do you rate compared to these other countries? How many eggs would you say you personally consume in a year? Now, I also think that there is a connection of eggs to the Easter story. From the beginning of Christianity, eggs were adopted as a symbol of fertility, resurrection, and eternal life. Although this is not recorded in the Bible, many scholars believe that Mary Magdalene brought a basket of hard-boiled eggs to the tomb of Jesus to share with other women. Why this belief? Well, Jesus' final journey to Jerusalem brought him to celebrate the Passover. The Last Supper was a Passover Seder, one of the ritual foods arranged on everyone's Passover plate was a hard-boiled egg. The egg symbolized a ritual sacrifice in the temple. Even now, in Orthodox Judaism, hard-boiled eggs are still offered to mourners. To everyone, arranged on everyone's Passover plate, to mourners, as their first food after a funeral. Much, much more can be said about this incredible egg. I think few of us fully understand just how vital a role the egg has played in our human journey. I know it played a significant role in the life of my parents. During the Depression years, called the Dirty 30s, money was often very scarce. My parents raised chickens, both for food and then sold the eggs for 20 cents a dozen. Not much, but it gave them some extra money to buy sugar, salt, spices, glass jars for canning fruit and meat, and so on. For them, it made a difference. It would be interesting to learn just how many people in the world have benefited nutritionally and financially from the use of chicken eggs. I want to close with an addendum. I have always been intrigued by success stories, especially stories that talk about people who turn their lives around. Last month there was a feature article in the newspaper about a homeless man who turned his life around. I brought a copy of that. You may have seen it. It was in the Calgary Sun, Saturday, September the 4th. I also believe that it was broadcast on TV. For me, it indicated how just one person can positively affect the life of another person, and how this person found new life and in turn is now positively affecting the lives of other people. The story is about Richard Hutchins. Richard, now 62 years of age, had a humble beginning living with his family in public housing. He and his sister worked the cotton fields every day after school. At the very early age of 6, Richard developed a keen interest in art. And during lunch breaks, he would sit down, take twigs from the fire, and draw charcoal figures on lunch bags. Later on in life, he worked in an art studio in Santa Monica, California, where he was an artist in residence. Unfortunately, he got involved with the wrong crowd and ended up spending 2 years in jail. In jail, he was confined to his cell for 22 hours a day. To pass time away, he got creative. And with no art supplies, he created colored dye out of Skittles, M&Ms, coffee, toothpaste, and Kool-Aid. He took hairs from his beard and made a paintbrush to dip into his newly created colors. Having access to standard white envelopes, he created 15 plus portraits a day in his jail cell and mailed them to his friends, family, and total strangers. He even mailed some to President Obama. He rarely received a reply. Here's an example of some of his work. These are the sketches that he produced in his jail cell, and as I said, about 15 plus a day. Then mailed them. There's something rather interesting. I don't know if you can see it from the TV. You see the stamp. You see also the word Keith, Los Angeles, on the right-hand side. That's a friend to whom he sent many of his sketches. Also on the upper left-hand corner, you see his address. And it's not his name, but it's Drew Hill. Why Drew Hill? Well, Richard thought that if he used someone else's name, it might draw more attention. Now, Drew Hill was a fairly famous football player. Well, it helped a little bit, but not much. He also signed it Drew Hill, which you see at the bottom here. Those are the kinds of sketches he produced every day, up to 15 a day. After 2 years in jail, he was found innocent of his crime, released from jail, and returned to the art studio in Santa Monica, where he previously worked. There, in a short period of time, he created over 800 pieces of sketches and painting, and some of which he stored with his friend Keith Polk. But once again, misfortune struck when the art studio burnt down during the California fire, destroying most of his work. Without work, soon his savings were gone, and he ended up homeless, sleeping on the streets of Skid Row for 6 years. Then this year, 2021, Richard was able to get off the street and live in an LA shelter which housed homeless people. On Easter Sunday, April 2021, this year, he had a chance encounter with a person named Charlie Jabalay while he was admiring Charlie's blue Jeep. They struck up a conversation, and as they bantered about the car, Charlie was impressed with Richard's energy, to the point that it made him want to talk more to Richard. Richard then told Charlie about his life story. Charlie was touched by the story, especially Richard's relentless drive to carry on with his art, despite all the hardships he had faced. Charlie then asked, "What's your dream?" To which Richard replied, "To one day see my art in an art gallery or museum." At the end of this very unexpected encounter, Charlie, an entrepreneur and former music manager, who obviously had a lot of contacts in LA, took Richard to an art store and bought him $2,000 worth of art supplies. Charlie then went on to create an official website and highlighted the art that Richard had stored with his friend Keith. 10 minutes after the website was launched, Richard sold $12,554 worth of art. Charlie then organized an elaborate red carpet event at the Beverly Hills Hotel to show Richard's work. This is the display that Charlie had organized, the sign featuring world-famous homeless artist Richard Hutchins at the Beverly Hills. Soon after that, some paintings sold for $23,000. Since then, Richard has sold over $250,000 worth of art, paintings, and some were even bought by Oprah Winfrey and Steve Harvey. Imagine, all in such a short period of time. Richard now plans to open his own art studio. And here's the part that I really like. Richard has vowed to prioritize giving back to the homeless community in Los Angeles. He now gives away free artwork and Most of the money he earns goes towards bringing people off the streets. Just imagine the total transformation in a mere 6 months of time by meeting one person who believed in him and then changed his life, and that person now is helping to change the lives of others. Yes, the power of one. Pastor Ron usually ends his podcast with a story from the sunny side of the street. My story is called Ham and Eggs. One bad, one good. One of the powerful figures, a businessman from Wall Street, fell in love with an actress. For many months, he was always seen escorting her about in fashionable circles around town. Things were getting serious, and he was deciding to ask her to marry him. But first, he decided to hire a private detective to look into her former dealings and friends in order to guard himself against any rash mistake. Finally, he received the detective's report. It read, Miss Blank enjoys an excellent reputation. Her past is spotless. Her associates have been above reproach. There is, however, a breath of scandal, which is that in recent months she has been seen in the company of a Wall Street businessman who is of very doubtful reputation. Have a wonderful day. Blessings to you.